SaaS Backwards is sponsored by Austin Lawrence Group, specializing in demand gen for SaaS. It sure is noisy. I deleted 100 emails from vendors just this morning. Your buyer has gotten better at ignoring you, and you're gonna need a big idea if you want to cut through all that clutter. Austin Lawrence is just the right agency to help you find it. So if your campaigns are falling on deaf eyeballs, let's talk. Visit austinlawrence.com today, and let's build something bigger.
Welcome to the SaaS Backwards podcast, where we reverse engineer the success of fast-growing SaaS firms and explore strategies CMOs and CEOs are using to drive their businesses forward.
Welcome to SaaS Backwards, a podcast that helps SaaS CMOs and CEOs to enhance profitability while they drive growth. And our guest here from the Ascent Conference is Chip House, CMO at Insightly. Hey, Chip, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
It's a pleasure. And as I mentioned before we got started, big fan of some of your marketing work, SharpSpring, before you were at Insightly. Yes. But let's dig right into Insightly. Tell me a little bit more about Insightly. I've done some research, but people listening might not know you guys. And a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure, yeah. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Excited to be here at Ascent. So Insightly is a modern, scalable, and affordable CRM platform that teams love, frankly. So we're trying to find the space in the CRM market that's no longer large, legacy, expensive, hard to implement, hard to integrate cloud, and a very modern system that teams can use easily, that they can implement easily and integrate with the other tools that they love.
And before Insightly, what were you doing and how did you get here?
Oh, sure, yeah. So I've been in the SaaS space for 25 years actually now, Ken. And so it's been a long road. But most recently, I was Chief Marketing Officer at SharpSpring, a marketing automation company that was acquired by Constant Contact in 2021. And then I went looking for an exciting, growing SaaS company to be part of with a great culture. And I found Insightly, and it's been great.
That's awesome. So now, Insightly looked to me sort of like the next generation of tools like HubSpot. So it looks like you're building on a lot of marketplace understanding and traction for these tools, but sort of coming at it again fresh. Could you just give us a little bit of a landscape that you operate in?
For sure. Obviously, CRM is a competitive market, right? And it's been around since Salesforce started. It's been around before that, right? I mean, tools like Goldmine and things like that we all used on our desktop. Remember those days?
Oh, yes.
And, so Salesforce brought it to the cloud. And by the way, for 12 years, I was at ExactTarget in scaling roles, and Salesforce acquired our company in 2013. And so I spent a couple of years at Salesforce.
So if I want to sell a company, I should hire you?
Apparently, yeah. But yeah, what we find in our research that we did last year tells us this, Ken, that there's a number of companies that are mid-market companies that choose to buy Salesforce. It's like the whole adage, nobody was ever fired from buying IBM, and Salesforce is going to become that. Nobody's ever fired. Maybe they have been for buying Salesforce, because you find these small companies that spend $200,000 a year on Salesforce and the administration and the services
and
to make it go and customize and integrate it. And so certainly a very, very powerful platform, but it's expensive to use and isn't right for every organization. And so we are targeting Insightly at organizations that are mid-market companies that need a scalable tool that will grow with them, that will integrate with their software that they use, that will power their teams mobily, and also give them a single source of truth, a view of their customers. So not only we have a CRM, we have a marketing automation platform, we have a Zendesk competitor called Insightly Service, and then we power it with our middleware connector called App Connect, which is like a Zapier product that we own as well.
So it is a very modern CRM with all the kind of functional add-ons to run a business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so, we'll have customers integrate, MailChimp or QuickBooks with our platform, and then we're converting a lot of those MailChimp users over to using Insightly Marketing over time when they need to graduate. And so that's why I say it scales with the company as they grow.
And that brings a question to mind of product market fit. Yeah. And this is a pretty scalable solution. So how are you going about understanding what that means to the different size and complexity of organization. What are we doing on product marketing to understand that?
Yeah, well, I mean, so the CRM has been in market for 11 years, and the company was founded by Anthony Smith, and he's an engineer by trade. And, he wanted to solve the problem of having a CRM that integrated well with Google. And so that's how we initially went to market. It was with Google and G Suite and an highly integrated in-pane solution. And so for the first several years, it was very much product-led growth, self-service, growing primarily within those integrated ecosystem. It was Gmail and then Outlook and then QuickBooks later than that, and Xero and other accounting tools. So it started out very much being CRM first and self-serve and product-led growth. And then when we added the marketing product in 2019 and then the service product in 2021, we started going to market to larger companies, right? And so they hired myself, hired our head of sales, and we started taking it to market through our sales team. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but
I think we got close.
Okay, we got close.
I think it was a near enough hit.
All right.
That's very cool. Let's talk about growing the business, really between you and your colleague, partner in sales. What are the most effective growth strategies that you're using at Insightly? Like, what are the hot buttons that you're really able to push now? And is there stuff you can share with others to consider in their businesses?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, the fact that we have, 25,000 customers, which includes a number of free users, right? So you can use Insightly just for 2 users for free kind of perpetually. But then, maybe half of our business is self-serve and PLG, and the rest is all driven by us. But the motion that works really well for our work with the sales team, we're still about 90% inbound driven, and so we know who our ICP is, we're across all industries, but we're leveraging 6 Sense data because there's almost always a good share of people that are in market for a CRM. So the survey research that we did last year showed that about 4/5, 79% of people are frustrated in some ways with their CRM. Because
not a lot of love out there.
There's not a lot of love out there, right? Exactly. It's almost like you throw them in the back of a taxi cab and have CRM confessions, and kind of drive around. People will tell you all about why they're frustrated. And so, we're talking about Insightly as a modern CRM that just approaches it differently for the market and for go-to-market teams, frankly, to help them manage pipeline and drive leads. And so we take intent data, and we know that a large percentage of our customers and potential customers are on LinkedIn. And so we're managing content primarily through LinkedIn, some video. We have our own podcast called Closing Time, targeted at go-to-market leaders, where we're also interviewing folks in the space, occasionally customers, other influencers, in the sales and marketing space. And that's proving very successful, though, as you know, a lot of it's untrackable these days. It kind of comes in through the dark funnel, but when you do the post-analysis, companies that we've targeted in that way are buying our platform over time at a much higher rate than those that we haven't targeted.
Right. Well, it's a high consideration product category,
High
right?
consideration, yeah. And, whatever Forrester says it's 27 steps in the B2B buying process, it's at least that, as they visit other CRM vendor sites, as they visit G2 Crowd, as they talk to people. And the cool thing is, we added a how did you hear about us sort of, user attribution to our demo request form. And we learned that about 20% of our sales comes from referrals, and about 7 to 10% comes from former customers that now want to bring Insightly to
wherever they go
next, And so, that's almost a third of our business comes from people that have used Insightly before and I guess had a good experience.
That's very cool. I mean, I think that the how did you hear about us question is underused.
Yeah. Well, you were smiling when I said that, so you've heard it a couple times?
Oh, yeah. I mean, attribution, I've been talking about attribution since I started in this business, and that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to know, where did I pour money in so that I could take money out? So the problem is it's really hard to do. So we put all this phony automation on attribution, and then it turns out if you just ask people, they'll tell you, I was on the, CRO community and somebody told me about this CRM and then I was on G2, and you can get their whole journey. They'll tell you most of their journey. They might forget a few things.
Yeah.
But if you ask that 1,000 times, you'll get a good picture of what the journey actually looks like. So yeah, it made me smile. Tell me about, and this is really a leading question, the role of customer success. How is that function contributing to growth? And are they measured? And where does that function fit in some?
Well, this is the maybe third or fourth company I've been at where we've run our go-to-market on the platform that we own. So we use Insightly Marketing, Insightly CRM, Insightly Service. But our service team, obviously, I consider part of the go-to-market team, and they work very closely with our existing business sales team, which we also call our growth team. And so, the experience that a customer has using the software, did they get onboarded correctly? Did they get their data loaded efficiently? Did they get their team enabled? Do they know how to leverage our integration tool, to integrate the software that they need to use? All of that is super critical. Or are they even aware of it? I think that's the thing these days. As you know, if you have a large go-to-market team, even internal enablement and awareness is a task, right? Especially in a remote work environment, you're communicating again and again and again. It feels like the same thing, right?
And as your team grows, you have to just start all over again.
And it's the number one skill I think that a leader has to have in a remote environment is you have to be a really, really strong communicator. And you also have to be patient and understand that it can take some time. But it's similar with customers as well. Just because you sent them an email doesn't mean they're going to have knowledge that you have X, Y, and Z in product, right? And so we're always surprised to learn that we have existing customers that don't know we have a marketing product. It's like, how is that possible? But selling into our base of customers is a bigger business for us than even new business. So as they adopt more of the platform.
So that's, I think, a really important insight right there. If you can't say that, you have to ask yourself why not, especially if you have a decent sized customer base.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for that. In fact, I'm doing a brain date later. And that's one of my big questions.
Is that existing business growth?
Yeah.
Upsells, cross-sells, things like that.
Yeah, what's happening with that? Because, when you look at the levers of growth for a SaaS company, there's price, there's your current customers, and then it's your go-to-market motion.
Yeah, and I think that we love working with companies in fast-growing industries. Like, for example, we have a number in solar. We certainly have a number in SaaS as well that leverage the platform. And when you're hooked up with somebody in a fast-growing industry, they're going to add more users, they're going to add more contacts and things like that, so which helps us scale alongside.
I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you, what is the role of AI at Insightly, and where are you today and where are you going? I think it's interesting. A lot of companies didn't talk about their AI layer, and now everybody's talking about it, and also everybody's an expert.
Yeah, everybody seems to be an expert these days, right?
Yeah, it's amazing to me how many 23-year-olds are all of a sudden marketing gurus on the back of this. Maybe that's another podcast.
It might be.
But tell me about the role of AI in this product category and for Insightly.
Well, I can tell you that we use it in the marketing team for a number of different things. And, whether it's ideating on what we're going to talk about and questions to ask an audience, as we're presenting something, ideation around blog posts. We actually leverage it for our closing time podcast to help pull out the salient points so we can put sort of a great summary on our website for what took place in this podcast. So, I think AI has a lot of potential in the CRM space, certainly for helping sales reps send better emails, for example, and use better language. I think for analyzing conversations and, analyzing calls and how do those happen, for predictive elements of pipeline. And, there's all those things that we're talking about. And, I'd rather have our CEO on to talk about our product developments in the future, but I'd be happy to do that.
That might be a great follow-up for us to do. So you had a long career doing SaaS growth. If you were seated next to a founder at this conference, and maybe they were subject matter experts, but not SaaS experts, what are the 2 or 3 things you would share to them as they're looking at growing here in 23 and beyond?
I mean, SaaS has its own language, and I'm in a few CMO groups, and it's really helpful actually to be involved in CMO groups where not everybody's SaaS. So there might be some B2C, even hanging out with B2C marketers is a good muscle to kind of remind yourself of. If I was sitting next to a founder, a big piece of developing the go-to-market is, if you're really early on, you need to figure out who you're selling to and why. And if you're already selling your product and you have product market fit, you should have spent a ton of time with your customers to understand why they bought it, where they heard about it, how they get value out of it, and just to have that sort of scrappy, curious attitude to all of your go-to-market based on who your ideal customer is, because that's the beginning of your go-to-market efforts. It's the beginning of a investor pitch. It's the beginning of a marketing plan. So
that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think that so many of the founders that I get to talk with, they were sort of business experts who weren't even software people. And so I'm always looking for those pearls of wisdom. I really appreciate those. Looking back on your own career, tell me what you might do differently and why. What decisions did you make that you might make differently? And what can we learn from that together?
That's interesting. I mean, I think, I've been certainly lucky in my career. You make some moves that turn out well that you don't really know how it's going to turn out. So I spent my first 9 years in catalog marketing at Fingerhead Corporation, And the best thing I ever did there was raise my hand and say, I want to be part of the web team. They were just forming in the late 90s, and so that got me a chance to do e-commerce and build websites and send promotional emails in 96, 97, where I learned a ton, right? And so by the time I was hired into my first SaaS company, I already knew how digital worked, and I just, by the way, it sounds like the good old days. And by the way, 1998 was 25 years ago, Ken. I don't know if you knew that. But I did some banner campaigns in 1998, and they had a 12 to 15% click-through rate, which is mind-blowing now, given that most click-throughs are a fraction of a percent if people even notice a banner ad. And so what errors did I make? I was a co-founder for a software company, and my founder moved into the CEO role. I kind of took a COO role and determined that was not a role for me. I'm much more of a marketer at heart. And maybe now I'm just too old to do startups anymore, And so I need to be post-product market fit. So I think not knowing my strengths and leaning into those and being...
I think you have to be honest with yourself, right?
You have to be honest with your strengths, yeah. Because, when it was offered to me, yeah, okay, I'll try the COO thing. And I certainly have elements of my personality, my skills that can support that. It's just not a sweet spot for me. And so that was one error. And I think I didn't know myself early enough, so it was beneficial. I spent 9 years in catalog marketing because I got out at the right time, per se. But I spent too long there. I didn't learn as much about myself doing the same thing over and over again for 9 years.
Yeah. Hey, it wasn't on my list of questions, but it occurs to me. What do you think the role is in B2B for creativity as opposed to just grinding out the numbers? What's the balance there, and how do you approach creativity and marketing?
I think, CMOs these days have to be full-brained, I think, So they have to have the analytics and they have to have the creativity, or they have to hire strong people in those things, And so I think creativity is probably an underrated skill in today's CMO, especially in the SaaS world, because, now companies are doing these crazy things like tucking them under the CRO, and, marketing is just sort of serving sales, driving leads, and of course we have to drive leads as a business and we have to grow. That's a key piece of what marketing needs to do. But creating demand with a differentiated message, differentiated visuals, and leveraging the way buyers want to be connected to along wherever they are right now in the buyer's journey. They don't know they're on a journey. A lot of them might not, right?
Yeah, they're not thinking that.
And so I think creativity is what opens the door.
Hey, let's leave it there.
Yeah.
Chip House, CMO at Insightly. If people want to learn more about the company, where do they go?
They go to insightly.com, Ken.
Awesome, man. Reaching out to you on LinkedIn. Open to connections from people here at Ascent?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to have people connect to me on LinkedIn and check out our podcast as well. But I listen to yours, Ken, and I enjoy it.
Thanks very much. If you haven't already subscribed to SaaS Backwards, please do so wherever podcasts are distributed. And I can be reached at LinkedIn/in/Ken Lempit, and the agency's at austinlawrence.com. Chip, Thanks for being a great guest. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the SaaS Backwards Podcast, brought to you by Austin Lawrence Group. We're a growth marketing agency that helps SaaS firms reduce churn, accelerate sales, and generate demand. Learn more about us at www.austinlawrence.com. You can email Ken Lempet at kl@austinlawrence.com about any SaaS marketing or customer retention subject. We hope you'll subscribe, and thanks again for listening.